Now that we've had a chance to see different ways of integrating ARES Kudo as a developer product, I think it's a great time to highlight one of our partners, Arlanis Reply, who integrated ARES Kudo into facility management solution. And so here to talk to me about this is Hartmut, who's the manager for business development and facility cloud at Arlanis Reply. Hello, Hartmut.
Hey.
Thanks for joining us today. And I think it'd be helpful for the audience to understand a little bit better, what is Arlanis Reply? What role do you serve in the ecosystem? Maybe also why facility management? And then what are you doing here? And so why don't you go ahead?
Thanks, Robert, for the introduction. Well, first I want to speak about who is Arlanis Reply. Arlanis is specialized in consulting, planning, development, and integration of Salesforce solutions and services. We offer integrated solutions for customer-related processes in sales, marketing, service, and MuleSoft-like integration. As you can see in the slide, we are part of Reply. It's a big group which is a holding for around about 250 companies all over the world, each being a specialist in a certain part, like in Oracle, in Microsoft, SAP, and like we in Salesforce. You can see also there are a couple of sister companies that are working together with us in the Salesforce ecosystem. And in the end, you see that we earned the Partner of the Year the third time. Looking to our topic today, Facility Cloud, Facility Management System in Salesforce. Let's say CAD integration on a new level, because with Facility Cloud, you can experience the world's first integration into a CAD editor and Salesforce for efficient and smart facility management. With Facility Cloud, you don't optimize only management of buildings and technical stuff. You are able to manage processes related maybe to assembly, things like this. As you can see, we start with the Google Maps, looking from the earth down to a building and to a floor. And then what you see here is the floor plan, and this is completely integrated within the iframe of ARES Kudo. And let's say one more stuff is to have complex views, like we call it expert views, on everything, like the inventory, like the floor covering that you see with just coloring the polygons for maybe having cleaning teams, for having the cost of how to clean and what to clean. And also, if you see the next, there is a called DIN 277 in Germany. It's the room type. And so you can see where's the office, where is the room type for production, storage, and things like this. And all it's coloring about a attribute in Salesforce, and we send this directly per command to the iframe, and in the plan it's changed. Same if you're looking on one level deeper, you have a bi-directional view on, let's say, a chair. To the left, you click on the Salesforce object, chair is zoomed in and highlighted. And the same is getting on object on the plan. You just click on the object, like in this case, a room. You can see, if you click on view, you can then see the room attributes and change it. Like in this case, the floor covering, we change it to the laminate, save it, and then you see the color is changing. And this is also bi-directionally. And like in this case here, maybe as a little look out in the moving, you see you can drag and drop a table of every part of the CAD you are allowed to from the perspective of security. You can place it in another room, and in the end, it's changing the room in Salesforce also, because with this command move set, and then you have another parent, so it's in the next room again.
which I think is super important, right? And in facility management, right, you have on the one hand the alphanumerical database that tracks all the objects, and then you might have outdated plans, right, that don't reflect that anymore, right? And I remember still that we used to go and help survey buildings because there was a huge mismatch between facility management and actual data on the ground, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think my understanding is that by doing it this way, even by simply moving something from one room to another, you can update the database at the same time, right?
Right.
And similar as we saw with the floor covering, just because you recognize there's a change in that room, it automatically figures out where that is in the database and what needs to be updated. Yeah, so I think that's super cool and hopefully simplifies the work for the actual technician significantly without ever having to learn CAD, right? All these things are happening without you knowing what commands to hit in a CAD system. You're running with a very targeted user interface for your role, right?
Absolutely. Okay, here you see just to im and export the plan. This is, I think, really important because sometimes there's an external planner, maybe for inventory, maybe for other stuff, that you can give away a part of the plan to this and get it back.
Yeah, and so this is not an image; it's not a PDF. It's the original DWG file, right? So this is the files you can exchange with all the other counterparties, right? And they know what to do with it, and they can update it and send it back to you, and you can update the database appropriately. Correct?
Yeah.
Right. Excellent. Well, thank you, Hartmut, for showing sort of what the product looks like. I want to kind of peel back a little bit and kind of show the users or our partners how this actually works, right? And so on the one hand, on the left-hand side, we have Salesforce running, right? The SaaS version, all operated by Salesforce. And on the right-hand side, you have the ARES Kudo iframe that is also running as a SaaS version. So Arlanis Reply does not have to host any servers to get the solution running, right? They can help implement the project with the customer, but then they have no operational role here. And so how does this work? Well, we have a simplified UI as well, which you have to keep in mind because we don't want these users to directly edit the drawing, as this doesn't really fit their role, right? And maybe it's outside their mandate. And second, the facility cloud product can, right? And so we have a full CAD system here. We don't have a viewer. We don't have something that is stale, but is a live editing of drawings, and we persist those changes back to the designated backend. And so how that works is that as Facility Cloud sort of shows a view that should show a floor plan, it requests a token from the ARES Kudo token system. This contains just simply what application is it, what customization package do we want to show on screen, what floor plan or file we want to show, what backend should we retrieve this from. We send back a token to Facility Cloud, and then Facility Cloud generates a session with the SaaS hosted version of ARES Kudo, which is now deployed to 6 regions worldwide. And so we'll pick the one that's closest to the user. We'll retrieve the customization package and as well as the file. And so this is all handled seamlessly in the background, and the customer doesn't have to worry about any of this. So Hartmut, ARES Kudo, was a very new solution, or pretty new solution when we started working together. And if I recall correctly, you kind of found us through a sort of an industry research project. And so walk maybe the audience through what was the process in trying to get the first version going. Like, how did that work for you?
Okay, well, I really remember it like it was yesterday, but it was a couple of years ago. We had a 2 days workshop with you and your team in Berlin with my guys together, just to get to know like how is Salesforce working, how is ARES Kudo working, just to get into this deep. And then we get back to the office, and 2 colleagues of mine and 3 working students, I think they worked around a couple of weeks on this to have the first version on really communicating with the integrated iframe into Salesforce. And that's it. It was really fast moving forward.
Yeah, and I think we have to acknowledge, I think we had very little exposure to Salesforce, basically zero. And you've never interacted with this type of a system, right? And so, yeah, I think it was a great collaboration. And, I think we've seen on the deployments we've seen since then that this approach works well and allows the customer to grow from single processes to multiple processes beyond that, which sort of makes me think, like, why are we not just embedding a viewer, right? We could be loading a PDF here, or you just a plain picture, right? Why was it so important to you that there's actually a full CAD system underneath that could be exploited here?
Yeah, right. This is a good question, because most of the users are really using it as a perfect viewer, really perfect, like having the expert do things like this and working on this with attributes. But I think the next step would be to have more, if you think in kind of moving, like not only just drag and dropping tables and chairs, but having new ones, having maybe a cut of a room into two. So you have to export the floor plan and re-import it. Just compare it against the old one. Maybe you want to have, let's say, a polygon that you really draw on your own onto a floor plan with only room polygons. So because you have more, let's say, 3 workplaces in a room, and for many of the companies, it's very important. So we are going more and more into editing the system and not only viewing. And for this, we can have another button, just do it. And with ARES Kudo, it's easy to do it.
Yeah, and so you can basically seamlessly expand the feature set that's exposed to the user that makes sense for their workflow. I think that's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, Hartmut, I want to thank you for sharing the Arlanis Reply story with our audience, and also the Facility Cloud product. Like I said, it is interesting because of this sort of fully SaaS nature of this implementation. And I think it shows what's possible in this sort of new cloud world, and sort of picking up, sort of disbanding that whole big clunky application paradigm that we had on desktop into these really focused applications, and sort of composing it as necessary for the customer. So I think it's very informative for our customers. So thank you, and let's continue the next step.
Thank you for being here.